we're on to the mumbo jumbo that we're likely to hear after this rate hike presumably comes, whether it's a quarter point or half a point, to Ken Langone right now, what he thinks is at stake. Ken, always great to have you. What do you see happening? Another rate hike?
Thanks for having me, Neil. I would guess another rate hike, but I wouldn't put anything past this Fed. They mystify me, Neil. They've blown this from the very beginning. You know, let's go back to last spring of 22, where we were talking about transitory inflation.
Right.
The Fed should be conservative. They should have said, prayerfully, it's transitory, but we're going to take a more conservative approach and assume it's the real thing and start. We lost a year. We lost a year. You know, we're today paying the price for what's called free money. For how many years? 10, 12 years? Money cost you nothing. All you had to do was pay it back. In some cases, we're now dealing with the price we're going to pay for free money, and it's going to be painful. And it's not going to be easy. And I wish I had a solution, but it seems to me we're going to have to go through the conventional phases, such as a recession. Question is, how bad a recession? I'm more and more becoming convinced, Neil, it's going to be a serious recession, not a mild one.
As serious as the one that you were dealing with when you started Home Depot? I mean, that was a big one in the late 70s and all that. You think we're going to rival that?
I think this could be worse. Well, let me tell you why.
Wow.
Because the banking system right now has got a huge question mark over it. Huge. I mean, when you look and see what's happened here, this Silicon Valley Bank and then Republic and Signature Bank, I mean, we can't not have risk-averse banks. Banks need to know if they make decisions, there's a risk to what they do. If we're going to guarantee all deposits, we're asking for a lot of trouble. There's no limits anymore then, Neil. You got an administration that's spending money like a drunk sailor. Every program they see they want, they're completely indifferent to what it costs. On the other hand, the Republicans did a pretty bad job too. So there's plenty of blame to go around. But right now, Neil, I think the thing we have to ask ourselves, the question is, how do we ameliorate the possibility of a severe recession? And I worry about that.
You mentioned just a second, but Ken, you just mentioned, you know, Republicans had their problems as well. There's likely to be a crowded field among Republicans seeking the White House. Donald Trump is among them, you know, Nikki Haley and others coming to join the race. Pretty soon, maybe Governor Ron DeSantis. Do you have any horse in this race?
Right. I'm standing on the sidelines watching, Neil, because I think the one thing I pray we don't have in the Republican Party is the same size field we had the last time. And let me be perfectly frank. I think Donald Trump's time has come and gone. I think it's over. I also think, Neil, that he has little chance if we have fewer people in the hunt. So I'm hoping that maybe we can get down to a manageable number, 2, 3, 4 maybe, and then we'll have a more substantial selection and a stronger chance of winning. But right now, let me tell you, all this White House knows is spend, 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 spend. In an environment where you already have serious inflation. So let me ask you,
Ken, if I can go back to what you were saying about the race, and I know we had this sound this year. I apologize, but if Donald Trump were the Republican nominee, he leads in all the polls. It's still early. Okay, good. He still leads in all these polls. Do you think that Republicans would lose with him at the top of the ticket?
Yes. Yes.
Who would win?
I think we would lose.
Who would win?
Well, that's tough. You talk about a Hobson's choice, Biden and Trump. I mean, boy.
No,
oh boy.
I'm talking about if he were not the nominee. If Donald Trump were not the nominee, and let's say it were Ron DeSantis, do you think he could win?
I think DeSantis can win. Look, he's done a hell of a job down here in Florida. I'm in Florida for the winter. Let me tell you something right now. Florida works. and his now focusing on the schools. Neil, in my opinion, the biggest single issue America has right now is the inadequacy of public education in America. It's a disgrace. We're one of the 30 most developed nations on earth. We rank first in spending per student. We rank 28th out of 30 in results. Look at the competency rates of the kids that graduated from high school in New York City last year. It's pathetic. These poor kids are being gypped. Forget about equality. Forget about getting things done. These poor kids, they're going to have a chance to compete if they're equipped, if they have the tools. Public education in America today is an abomination. It's terrible. It's not bad. It's terrible. And what are we doing about it? Nothing. Oh, I know. Pay the teachers more money. We've got some serious issues to address. And now, of course, I read the Journal this morning, and the front page is a story about Putin and Xi getting together. And what are they trying to do? They want to depose us as the leading country in the world. And you know something, Neil? We want to worry about our currency continuing to be the reserve currency for the world. Because if we lose that, we really are second rate. We've got a lot of challenges in America.
You talk about
today.
all these you talk about all these competing issues, Ken, and you're quite right to point them out. But in the middle of this, even waiting for the Fed decision today, there's a possibility that former President Trump could be indicted, maybe even arrested, on charges that go back to allegedly paying off a former porn star. Now, I only raise that, what you think of that and the other investigations around the former president. He is galvanizing a great deal of support from his base on this whole thing. What do you think?
I think if he gets indicted, it will strengthen his base. Now, it may not make it bigger, but it'll make it stronger. Now, this guy in New York City that's bringing this guy, I don't know, the attorney, the Manhattan District Attorney,
the city prosecutor.
Look. I think it would be a mistake to indict him. On the other hand, I think maybe, just maybe, that might be the beginning of the end for Trump. I don't know. I do know this right now, that for sure, I'm guessing, but I bet his base will become stronger, much stronger. He's being attacked. He's being unfairly treated. He's being disadvantaged. All those things. And he's got a strong. That's what I say. If you get a big field running for the presidency among the Republicans, he'll have enough base strength to probably get the nomination. But he can't win. I don't believe he can win. Now, a lot of that's going to depend upon what the Democrats do.
Could I get your sense then of that? You mentioned that field, and it could be a very impressive field. But right now they're focused on trying to prove what they can do, that they'll be better at spending, that they'll cool it on that. Their past doesn't show it. Do you have any more faith that if Republicans were fully in charge in Washington, they would do a better job fiscally than the Democrats who've been in charge up to now?
Yeah, look, take what I say with the understanding that I am partial to Republican causes and policies.
Sure.
Yes, I think so. I believe there'll be a more sober approach to our economic needs in America. And I think, for example, the likelihood of getting some balance here, because we have none right now. It spends we're just talking about spending money. That's all we're doing. We've already got a serious inflation problem, and you're going to pour more gasoline on the fire. You know, Neil, I'll tell you, I'll say something draconian. I think this Federal Reserve Board should all resign right now. I think they blew it so bad. Powell, I don't know what his background lends itself to his job here, but I can think of people like, and I'm partial, Kevin Warsh, Larry Lindsey, Stan Druckenmiller. I don't know if Druckenmiller would do it, but what I'm saying is we needed a William McChesney Martin. Remember William McChesney Martin going back to when I came into business? This guy spoke with authority and knowledge and experience. no Fed chairman would have accepted inflation as maybe just going to come and go away. He just said, maybe it'll go away, but I'm going to do what I have to do to make sure that if it doesn't go away, I've addressed it. He didn't do that. They didn't do it. They're a bunch of academics. What do they know? They're students.
Everyone likes to compare Jerome Powell to Paul Volcker, and that the inner Paul Volcker in him is what's guiding him to keep raising rates. But you say it's too little too late, right?
Paul Volcker would have been jumped on this. Look at what Paul Volcker did when he took over, when he went to Reagan. And he said, you want me to fix this thing? He said, yes. He said, well, you're going to have some pain here. And damn if we didn't. But he fixed it.
Absolutely.
But Paul Volcker knew his stuff. He knew his stuff, Neil. I mentioned McChesney Martin. He knew his stuff. Arthur Burns. There's some issues there, but you could argue he knew his stuff. What the hell is his name? Alan Greenspan. These guys were pros. Bernanke, they were pros. Now, I will tell you there's degrees. I would say at the top of the list would be Volcker and McChesney Martin. But right now, I think the talent is there. The will to fix it is not. I'm sorry to be so brutal on the Fed, but I think they all ought to resign. I don't know how anybody can have confidence in this Federal Reserve Board right now, based on what's going on in America. I don't know how. I don't. But, Neil,
you're pretty big. You've got a pretty big influence to look at that. But finish that thought, Ken. I apologize.
Neil, don't forget the underlying theme of my belief: don't sell America short. Yes, we have serious problems. Yes, they need to be addressed. But do not, America is still the finest and best place to be in the world. It is, and it always will be. We're going through a rough patch right now, Neil, but we'll fix it. We'll get it right. Maybe it'll take us longer, and maybe it'll require more pain, but I have no doubt about this great nation. We're going to be fine. And I'm fully invested.
Ken, I tell you, you embody that greatness, and your rags to riches story proves it. Hopefully people will listen to the impact of what you said. Finish that. I'm sorry.
Shame on me if I don't acknowledge the greatness of this country for the wondrous things this country has done for me and my family, and more importantly, for the 500,000 kids that work at Home Depot today. That's America at its best. Look at Walmart. Look at the jobs we've all created. Look at the people that are living in homes they couldn't have afforded in earlier times. We are a great nation. We need to get back to some sobering reality, but we will. Don't sell, please. If you remember nothing else I said today, remember, don't sell America short. We're the greatest nation on earth, Neil, and we always will be. That flag,
well said.
You know I've said this to you before.
Said.
When I put it on, when I put it on in the morning, I look up to the ceiling and I say, Grandma and Grandpa, thanks for coming to America. So I leave you with that thought, Neil. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing very well, and you haven't lost your spice, and I'm glad you haven't.
Well, damn well won't lose my spice either. I'm going to open a restaurant down here in Boca Raton with Dean Pohl, the Gallagher's from New York, and right after this, I'm leaving to go down and see how it's coming. Come on down, I'll treat you to a steak.
Done. We're there. Good seeing you again, and thanks for speaking your mind. Ken Langone, the co-founder of Home Depot.